Greetings, greetings. Um, I mean, let's give honor to source and creator, the most high, whatever you subscribe to the ancestors known and unknown. It is very transformative plucking times during this Scorpio season. It's very intense, very transformative, very enlightening. And even with that, I'm bringing more awareness to the fact of how um, I've been getting major clarity of these energies unfolding, or even more so how um, relating to my experiences, relating to my journey, and so forth. And I've been really seeing this distorted mother archetype playing out, or the false mother, or even the energy playing out when it comes to how the mistreatment, misuse, and abuse of power happening from the root of the matriarchal, which enables or supports the patriarchal that you hear me talk about so much. And I've been recognizing this even with my own experience of taking back my own power, recognizing that mother wound and seeing the restoration being, restoration, the restoration happening, also the uncovering of um almost like the rediscovery of the divine masculine and divine feminine energy. Again, this is not gender related. This is not anything like dealing with um, sexual preferences. It's an energy. And I'm seeing it more prevalent as, again, as I stand in my power, I'm realizing I was getting clarity of how important it is to rewrite the narrative, how much courage it takes as someone who walks in authenticity or integrity, and even the consequences could be for I know a lot of people um, that have been scapegoated through, whether that be through society, whether that be through family, on so many levels. And when you no longer choose not to be scapegoated through, you choose to stand in your own power. And once this happens, the foundations of those who try to scapegoat through you begin to crumble. So with that, I'm recognizing the attempts or the things that can no longer manipulate you, or you won't allow things to manipulate who you are, your position, your status, more so in not just the spiritual aspect, but the physical aspect. So for me, a lot of introspection has been happening, a lot of reflection, a lot of letting go of what doesn't feel like home to me. If you haven't been following me, a lot of things that is very prevalent, which I used to deem valuable, has a lot to do with now relationally, where I would just will not like uphold to a higher standard anymore. And that's basically like that of what doesn't value or reciprocate or even, reflect those core values that stand and it is rooted in stand upon and rooted in integrity, authenticity, and then dealing with that frequency. Again, you will see the energies play out within people, whatever their spiritual vices, whether in the community setting, in a home setting, in business, corporations, whatever. So much so on a global scale to where I had to remind myself. I'm like, wow, I realize I know to the depths of why it is. I speak on levels. If you've been following me, you realize like speak on a message that reminds people to come back home to self. I want to ask you, and I ask myself, who feels like home to me? Where is my inner child safe? And it makes me go to the depths of with myself, and also who I'm connected to, what I'm branching out to, what reflects who I am. And as I dive more deep into myself, I'm starting to recognize even more clearly what is home for me and who is home, who reflects that. The reason why this is so vital and so important moving forward in more of the split that's taking place, or more of a physical separation, you'll be able to recognize like, oh my gosh, I see why this wasn't what it was supposed to be. I appreciate this season of my life, or appreciate this person, and so forth. I even had a moment the other day where I just had this immense amount of gratitude, like consume me, or like almost like a wave crashing of giving gratitude to even not just my mother, but the women that I connected with in relationships. It's like I was meeting myself at this point where this mother wound could no longer consume me or be a hierarchy in my life, uh, or rule over me. So now I'm at this place where like I've slayed that giant, or I've being able to embrace this part of me now that, stereotypes such as like a man that is always angry, or, or stereotypes of a darker man, or a man that has to be a certain way. And in reality, it's like, who defines me? What defines me? What was given to me? What narrative was given to me? So in this, as I be more authentic with myself, and uncover more parts of myself, my ancestry, the men being the first or pioneering something holistic, that comes with a sense of rejection in a world that isn't prominent on embracing men like that. And what am I getting at? I I honestly can say this. It's like I don't even look for protection from people. Being how much so when I was younger, when I wasn't protected physically, dealing with abuse, there was a lot of not just trust issues, but there was a lot of depths to me where I realized even going and growing and growing up in life, um, on a deeper level, I started to realize people really didn't know themselves. But the more I got to know myself, I realized like my discernment was heightened, my intuition, um, why I sometimes would fight so much with certain relationships or connections that really was really showing me that I needed to focus more on myself. That being said, I recognize again the distorted mother and father energy, the false mother. Those that are familiar or unfamiliar with that, is basically like a concept of what some of us have dealt with generationally or transgenerationally or intergenerationally, where mothers, and more so women who were abusive or neglected, they personally have dealt with things and then they reenacted it or passed it to their children. So that would be the false perception or the false identity of the original mother is, or the authentic, or the integrative mother, the mother that is. And this isn't just a mother that, it's not to say there's women that cared and loved or have this, within them. It's more so they were consumed by their circumstances, by their internal warfare and so forth. So I it's become clearer and clearer, like when I talk to people, or some people wondering why I don't want to interact, or uh, being able to see clearly what the the false mother was, that energy of the distorted mother, and seeing it clearly from my mother and so forth. So I was in the space of giving gratitude, of like, bro, I'm grateful for all women, for all the women that came before me, and even through my imperfections where I wasn't even able to hold space for them. I was in the space of like, wow, I had to see this mother wound was showing me how I was overgiving or giving more than I even could have, overcompensating and burning myself out. And then I start to recognize like, whoa, this is showing me where, let's say, women were in my life who had this immense amount of love or nurturing and so forth. I still in myself didn't know how to receive it. I didn't, dating back or reminding myself of like how I was self-sabotage, or even in moments where I had this idea of love, or I had this immense amount of love, and it would be reflected back in women who, let's say, would use or abuse that power of, you know, me, you know, acting out or reenacting these very things, that pretty much knowing that they had no the capacity not to love or reciprocate that. So again, I'm just recognizing the abuse of power on both in both ways. That wounded masculinity happens with all of us, or has happened throughout time and for the last 100 years. So when I'm talking about the mother aspect, I'm recognizing the energy in its totality of even just how a man is supposed to be, how the world and so many ideas of what men or little boys are supposed to be, how they're supposed to grow, all these things superficial on a surface level. So that moment I had to myself was again giving gratitude and apologizing and forgiving myself because of the overcompensation, or even the fact of me realizing like I didn't have to be in that long, or why did I give myself to this, or recognizing the sexual traumas, or even more so recognizing the fact of that person didn't have to do anything. That person didn't have to show up. That person didn't have to, so many things centered around this mother wound to close out this chapter, and how that connects to the family structure, how that connects to things ancestrally, how that mother wound leads to that holistic way of balancing myself and seeing myself whole within all aspects, instead of being in something where the overcompensation is from a sense of not feeling whole within myself, feeling secure within myself, and seeing how that reflects how my life unfolds and what cycles I need to change and what generational patterns I need to break. And when I say it, the it's so loud on a physical level with some women that I've encountered, where I realized that when I no longer want a trauma bond, I'm recognizing, for a lot of men, if you're not aware of this, and women, some are unconscious, but from a men's perspective, I'm recognizing like, wow, when I choose not to trauma bond, if you're not familiar, look it up. But when I choose not to interact and trauma bond with said people or some women, I'm recognizing the fact of how much, when I used to be triggered, which triggering can be leading to healing, but I'm recognizing the parts of me that now I'm able to stand true in, whether it's accepted or not. And even through that, I'm gonna be raw and real with y'all. I've been called pussy, I've been called a bitch, I've been called so many things, simply because the distortion of how we see the wounded masculine, it's orchestrated in some women, not all, but due to certain demographics of them being in a hyper independence, due to the insufficiency or the fact of a father or some father figure wasn't there to protect them from their childhood experience, or got harmed by a father figure or a father, and their inability to heal or refuse to heal. So this is reenacted through men, or and that's why I had to learn, even through a therapist reminding me like, hey, this has nothing to do with you. Don't even be mad. Like what they have, and that's very difficult for a lot of us to grasp. It's like what someone else does has nothing to do with you. They're still learning. Even at a child, I'm recognizing that, to where I've talked about how even with my daughter, learning how it, with her emotions being so magnified, magnetized or whatever. And in moments, it's like I have to breathe and not absorb. Or even if I catch myself absorbing, I have to transmute. I cannot allow that to transform me or make me be impulsive. So this is a process of learning self. This is a process of realizing these triggers are to lead me to a place of healing, to realize like introspect. Let me learn about me more. I don't have it all together. I'm learning about a lot of these experiences from cutting off family, and then being able to realize as I let go of the energy and cut ties, I'm able to recognize it even more clearly in women. I mean, there's some people that even looks like relatives, or even people who I can recognize that distorted mother energy so well, because as I heal the feminine energy within me, the mother energy, and it's when I say that, it's like that self-love and self-care is allowing me to mother myself, that balancing that so that I can respond and not react that in a way of what I used to see growing up, or what is familiar in the community, or what is normalized in society. So with that, that comes with fucking backlash, bro. That was the most uncomfortable thing for me. It's like when I would stand and say I won't be disrespected, or I won't be threatened, I won't tolerate this and so forth. I won't do all these things, to where it's like what people don't realize, there's been interactions where I've been with in settings with women, and and I'm just giving you a demonstration where I've been in settings with women, and sometimes they're not even aware because of so much of heightened emotion. Then I get to that place where I realize like, You know, if there's a little boy there, and I'm telling you from a traumatic space, this is why perception or perspective is so amazing because that little boy who, let's say, I could react to his mother, and even if she tries to lash out at me, I have to be able to be, and this has not always happened, but I have to be aware like she's hurting. She's going through something, that has nothing to do with me. But that little boy in that moment probably, who knows, has already probably seen something traumatic or is probably looking from his lens to even see a glimpse of a man who stands in his power. What do I mean by that? I've been in spaces where mothers have said things because the energy that I stand in and standing comfortably in or confidently in, it can be very triggering to women who are used to, and this goes for women too. It can be very triggering for you or us who have come so long on your journey to not tolerate the bullshit, to not tolerate the disrespect, to not allow people to think that they can do so much or say so much. And I was telling someone like confrontational. That there is a healthy way of being confrontational. Now, combative is another thing, but the fact of not allowing people, because my experience is different. If I was verbally abused and so forth, there's going to take times where something's going to come up and your throat chakra is going to activate. Now, being that we have been in a society where you have so much passive aggressive, you have people who just tell you to just put it on the back burner. Everyone is not the fucking same. And for me, I had to learn that. Because if I approached you with the intentions of, not harming you and so forth, and it just through growth and so forth, I'm telling myself, okay, pause. Because what I won't allow, and that's where you can walk away or just let people know, hey, this is not going, we can't talk or we don't have to speak at all. I don't have to see you and so forth. But again, from being in an experience where I've had mothers lash out, I've had experiences lashing out. I'm giving you like a clear, raw example. And there can be a teenager or a little boy around, right? And some moments in that moment, that little boy is looking to you because maybe he's used to seeing his mother being abused or being, and so forth. And see, these are things, stages in life where you grow up in the experience similarly, but now you're on the receiving end or you're not. And it's not about being perfect. It's about progression. It's about realizing like it's not going to be perfect. Because I've had times where I have to reflect and realize like I could have approached it differently, but at the same moment, I told myself I'm glad it happened. So I don't regret or anything, feel ashamed about anything in my past, no matter what someone wants to bring up. Now I'm able to grasp it and realize like, whoa, maybe that mother had everything, whatever she dealing with. And this is where grace comes in. But then I realized like that little boy, for the first time in his life, seen a man stand up for himself, standing his truth. And this point that I want to get at is that y'all don't realize how much of that man isn't fucking protected physically and spiritually. Now, it's not to say that I'm not protected from something greater. I'm very much aware of that because walking a path like this, that least traveled, or walking a path where you don't see most men who will not tolerate the modern day um, society, the norms, societal norms, or the disrespect, the slander, or just things that wants to dehumanize him in so many ways. Yeah, that shatters everyone's illusion. Not to mention when you're trying to walk in authenticity, there's naturally going to be backlash. There's going to be things, and it's not even the people, it's the energy because it's a push pull. Because we've been living in a world who's been consumed more by the negativity. And that's not just so much of just wicked and evil and stuff like that, or however you want to, see that. It's more of when you look at a battery post, the negative and the positive, it's been more so leaning this way. So now that you have people here who have lived in it and experienced it. Some may call it healers, shamans, and people who work with herbal, stuff that it's just like a body with a dis-ease. There has to be something to balance out the discomfort and dis-ease. This is what's happening. So with that, again, what is being risen up, we are being the phoenix being reborn through the things that was consuming us. So with that, now the importance of what I realize I'm walking in is that it's unfamiliar to a lot of women in certain settings. And I asked the divine, why are you putting me here? Because I want, some of you don't realize, some of you are there specifically for the divine to be, so you can be a spark and a guiding light for people, for so many people, hundreds of millions, whatever. You are something. Even though people are ignorant right now or not aware of who you are really something they're looking for or not seeking, or even, you know, eventually they will support. And it's, again, it's unfamiliar to them. They don't know this. It's unfamiliar to them. So you got to realize what I've recognized and accepted, that the conformity, what's so, it's like someone who has lived in a small town majority of their life, and here you come along as a traveler, and they want to conform you to, their way of living. But in reality, there's going to be a conflict of interest. There's going to be some pushback. There's going to be something naturally. It's just like when you see the greatest transfer of wealth right now. And I told you, spiritually, emotionally, and so forth. So I have to realize that I'm something the world is not familiar with. Those of you that are being called strange, weird, or, your art, your music, and so forth, it's not so much if you're ahead of your time. It's just the timing is not so much, it's not even time itself, it's the alignment. Your moment is already here. It's almost like the world is trying to catch up, but you are already aligned with the cosmos, the spirit. You're already aligned. But a lot of things have to happen through transition, or you have to be in a space where you have to be called to be an alchemist. You have to be called to rest. Some things may be so uncomfortable to other people simply because you do nothing when you're called to rest, or when you're called to create, or when you're called to do this. That's again, from experience, I realize why some of us who are so in tune with spirit realize that that's what protects us. Those who speak about ancestry, those who speak about things on a more cosmic and deeper level, galactic level, however you want to say it, that is unfamiliar to the natural world. Those who are so consumed or so focused on the physical and the natural world and don't have a sense of being in tune are very much um excluded from conversations and such. And the beauty of all of this is like, it hit me when I was expressing to someone, saying, I'm like, I'm not here to be liked or accepted. I'm here to just have a ripple effect. That's it. Simply me being here is enough. I am enough. I'm just not for everyone. I'm not here to be experienced by everyone. My experience with everyone is not the same. Everyone experience from me is completely different. What matters is the experience with myself, knowing thyself. So, and that goes to say, like, you can have someone who grew up in a different environment than someone who their perception or perspective on me would be completely different. Someone who grew up in a certain demographic where they did not receive love, they did not have a healthy way. So I'm able to see why now that it's okay to allow people to have this perspective, to come to their conclusion. And then even when they come to their conclusion, you realize, like, they've come to a space of realizing, like, it's okay to allow people to be wrong about you, or have this misconception, or to assume that you are not something that is their cup of tea, I should say. And again, I'm starting to recognize this more, where in these spaces and so forth, I realize how divinely guided and protected I really am. That's what you have to lean on towards in these moments. Fear, it lean towards fearlessness, not fear, because what'll happen is, I used to be focused on the worst possible outcome and fear the outcome. And in reality, now I'm realizing, like, the best possible outcome is what? To focus on that. To see myself beyond the place. I can be present, but to see myself beyond, what the vision of divine has given me. And that what makes me more even lighter, and even more in gratitude, because as you see now, like, the energy start to pick up and people start to get rowdy during certain parts of the season, because, shadow, Scorpio is like the shadow parts of ourselves comes up. I don't ignore anything about who I am anymore, because I'm starting to recognize, like, wow, this energy has been prevalent in humanity or in people for so long. And when I see these youth and so forth, some of the people who are so blinded by their ego or inability to love themselves or to face their shadows within themselves and so forth, the insecurities, they are just pretty much a catalyst for us to be a part of the youth that are going to be seeking out something that's healthier, something that's holistic, something that is more valuable, something that cannot be bought with a price, something that isn't, manipulated or, try to um, convince the youth that, this person or this character or this place you should do this or else, type thing. And so what I got clarity of again is like when you have the courage to rewrite the narrative, man, once you get there and have the confidence, there's nothing like it's okay to go in it scared. Being fearful of it is different. There were times where I was like, man, I'm just gonna do it. It's okay for this nervousness or scarcity to come up, but that's the beginning of the healing, or that's the beginning of transformation. So for me, I've been able to accept, like, wow, why am I looking to be accepted or even viewed in a lens where we're in a huge transformational and transition of a world that is splitting from inauthenticity to authenticity to a place of, integrity. And that will only be difficult for the ones who have masked themselves, but be very comfortable and confident for those who have done the work, who have faced themselves, and who are not attached to the idea of everything else, and how the world's supposed to see them and so forth. So rewriting a narrative can be in so many ways, like what a darker man's supposed to be, how he's supposed to look, what he's supposed to be doing, um, how he's who he's supposed to date, what type of career, so many things. Now realizing like the the limitlessness. I gotta excuse the noise. I don't know what's going on. Focusing on like being limitless, and just some distractions. But anywho, um, I start to realize, like, even more so as I start to transmute and alchemize a lot of things that I was experiencing, I start to recognize more and more deeper when I was young. Even my calling is walking more in my purpose and realizing, like, wow, I'm actually. Why would I be surprised when I'm, spiritually attacked or there's jealousy and envy amongst people of certain status or certain in certain settings. And I always remind people, it's like they can see your light, and it ain't even just your light. They either, I tell people all the time, when you have interactions with people, they can either accumulate more karma or they can actually create dharma for themselves. And that can play out in many different ways, whether through from them, that karma can return to them, or or someone they love, or that dharma can return along down the line. And that's one thing I've been accepted and recognized. And it's like, whoa, I realize it's okay to walk in integrity. It's okay for these people not to like me because I choose to be honest. Because I like it's not going to be accepted so easily because it's unfamiliar. It's very unfamiliar. So I realize the attacks that come has a lot to do with walking into your purpose. And it used to be so loud, and now it's becoming so quiet because I realized, like, taking back authority in your life has a lot to do with the very things that assume they have power over you. That's on so many levels, whether it's in your family, community, governments, and so forth. I've always told y'all that there's a shift in power. I've always told y'all that things are happening even more rapidly as we individually come into more of who we are. And that's the acceptance that it's unfamiliar to so many people. They're so used to you being a certain way. The world has even gave me this narrative like, oh, he's supposed to be like this by the age of this. Or, there's certain people, I have people come along my journey so much to be like, oh, he's supposed to do this. You got people that are looking forward for you to not speak, for you not to even rise and get up in the rising. There's people that looking, the energy of people not rising to this occasion or rising to their, walking in their truest form because of the wavelength, the effect that it will have on so many, and it's unstoppable. It's truly unstoppable. And the beauty of it is that the world again was so much focused on being sold out or crashing out or even like focusing on external things, that the balance being restored is for those who know to go inward, to focus more on their path and how it leads them more to um it becomes more harmonious, no matter what the world wants to tell you or no matter how people want to portray certain things. No, it's, man, listen, I'm telling you, like, it really hit me. I was, my elder told me years ago, she was like, you experience like a lot of spiritual attacks. And I didn't really know what it meant until I realized, like, when you are when you're walking in something that isn't accustomed to the narrative of the old blueprint, and that goes for anybody. You know how much courage you have to be to just simply every day be who you are and not give a fuck about how nobody feels about that. And I mean confidently. I mean like confidently, unapologetically loving yourself, taking care of yourself, showing up for your emotions first. And again, I realized how much that wasn't protected. Imagine a world again. I'm giving y'all narratives or how it was like, being in settings where when you've had women who are not protected, and let's use, so let's say the darker woman. I was telling someone she isn't going to immediately feel like she has when she don't feel. And then let me show you how stuff has happened where we're healing and reversing. When a woman who's original to this world, or let's just say there are darker shades, humanity, the divine mother, represents the energy, represents people every shade. But when I look at the origins of these the countries and so forth, the origins of women who have nurtured, who have been given energy and supported and been doing so many things for so long throughout humanity, not giving the credit, not giving the support, not giving so many things that we can discuss. But even with that, I'm telling myself, like, wow, I see why I get treated this way by her. When I say her, it's a collective, and it's not all women, but I'm saying collectively. And I see it more deeper because she hasn't been protected. So therefore, when she's not protected physically, then her inability to feel she's protected spiritually, she forgets to protect her sons. God, y'all don't even realize how much this shit is breaking cycles and curses as I speak about it. That's how deep the divine was saying. That's how deep this goes. When I don't care what shade of your mother is, when you prioritize a certain people for their protection and then you don't protect the origins or the people who pretty much are like organs of the human body, when you don't protect the heart, the people who hold compassion for the nations, when you don't protect the women who have fucking nurtured your ancestors, who have supported your ancestors, and then you got so far away from what? You being human still, or you being in tune with yourself, the same mothers, indigenous women, all nations, who first relied on their spirituality, their spiritual rituals to keep balance within the ethers and the spirit and the physical. And y'all think for once that this shit hasn't been collected on both sides, both spiritually and physically? I keep reminding y'all that there are things here that are far more greater than what you see in the natural eye. So with that, how can our mothers protect us, not just physically, but spiritually, when she's been exhausted in trying to protect not only herself, but when the removal of the men that protected her? Because that's what y'all forget. The matriarchal the sovereign nations, the women that have, things that have not been conquered. The men who came along as emperors, there were empresses before them. There were chiefess before all of this shit who kept everything together. And those same women, the same generations ancestrally, they hold their energy. They still hold their energy. I hold it within me because that is the origins, the organ. Somebody say organ, the organ, the origins of everything. And people slowly find out when I keep reminding y'all, touch not my anointed. So I'm able to recognize, Big Mama reminded me, like, you have to be able to see the women who have suffered. And it ain't just them, it's the ancestry. They don't even know what's going on with them sometimes. And you still have to, my son, you have to lend compassion to them. You have to wish them well. Because guess what? They're so used to men not protecting them. Look at how they treat their sons. No one ever showed them. Or it's not that they don't know how to do it. They're doing it the best of their ability. They just lost sight. And that ain't just physical sight. They lost spiritual sight. Y'all don't realize how deep this shit goes. Our mothers have lost spiritual insight, intuition. They lost sight of who they are inwardly because mother teaches you intuition, your inward identity that is limitless, that man cannot tell you, that man cannot buy. But we have been what? The powers that used to be in the ain't, y'all realize like their time has already, their duration is ended. So with this, you'll realize like no matter how much people want to fight against it, y'all, I don't give a fuck who you are, what status. In this day and age and in this new earth, this new order of things, you will not progress without first honoring the daughter and the mother, who both reflect matriarchal energy that gives life to every living organism and force on this world. That feminine archetype, that water energy that holds every memory. You know why fucking tears are so important? And you know why people will that karma that's coming? You want to know why this whether y'all can call it man-made or not, you want to know why these natural disasters? Those are tears from ancestors. Those are tears collectively in those winds. There is anger and rage. There is so much in these natural disasters y'all don't realize. Imagine the tears collected in the soil. Imagine the mothers that cried. So I have to recognize, like, in this calling, in my approach, I have to, at a point in time, as much as I wanted to be reminded through society and so much to hate not only myself, but the women that came from me and other women who unconsciously or intentionally support the demise of men that look like me and other women. It's somehow, some way I have compassion. I learned to love those parts of me with people that didn't look like me would never look at me or would never support me, who turned their backs. And that's fine. I had to learn to, even the women that did not care to look my way because I chose something completely different, not to be out in the street or not to do other things that other men did. I gave them grace as well. I had to learn to give myself grace. I wish them well as well. You know, and that was for my own protection and theirs. Because I tell you, like I had to apologize and I had to hold an immense amount of compassion and grace for myself, even when it came to, even when it came to me telling myself, like, I didn't have, like, my mom didn't show me to have capacity to hold space for myself. My dad didn't show, I didn't have those examples. I didn't have that leadership. So now I'm being able to be given that perspective. That is a gift. Some of us, you know how many people, depression or whatever, clouded judgment or whatever they have, are not able mentally or emotionally to come out of their headspace, and they're looking to something or looking to find some type of clarity on their sexual, emotional, or mental abuse. I too was there. I too inflicted it, whether I unconsciously or intentionally knew what I was doing. I had to become aware, like, yo, How are we going to counter this? How are we going to turn this around? So by that, I had to recognize like, okay, are you an enabler or are you a supporter? So now I have to realize this as you and I, whether you're an adult, your inner child is just as valuable. So I'm able to recognize a little girl and these women who was mistreated by men, who were disrespected and so forth. So now guess what? They're not able to see me through a lens of, what they're only as much as they want to get past what their woundedness is, some of them can't see past it. Same thing, I was there. Some people cannot break free of that. That's why some people unalive themselves. Some people don't have the capacity. And that's why the wellness is so vital and important moving towards our youth. I'm going to remind them that you are enough, you are everything. Go at your own pace, not the pace of people who don't prioritize your well-being, who don't, value these very things that sustain us or keeps your spiritual and mental and emotional well-being, you know, in a more of a holistic and healthier way. So, and that starts with honesty. That starts with truth. So again, I'm able to recognize, why that, instead of being so reactive, I'm learning the importance of what emotional intelligence really is. You start to recognize, like, man, this person is only doing this maybe because this is all they know, or this is sometimes, what, like when I say trauma bond, it's like that's all somebody only know to connect. I was there. That's what did light go off? That's only some things people know. I was there. Whether it was through sexual trauma where I just gave over myself, and I was able to recognize that with certain people I dealt with. I was like, wow, this is only connection stemmed off that. So in reality, a lot of us don't know what home feels like. And a lot of us, whether through you see teens and into adulthood right now, you're looking at a world that doesn't, they bought homes. They tell you to go buy a home. But my sharing of my knowledge and my experience through the wisdom that I've obtained, I realized like no one ever showed us or guided us to, no matter what happens in life and how we have to navigate things, that home is truly where the heart is or not. Home is within. How does your home look inside? And then with that, a lot of us never knew what it is to come from safe homes. And then not even just safety with that, even having basic human needs being met in certain demographics. Certain things that when you're talking about safety in the country, you got people, I don't care what type of neighborhood they live in, but you're talking about still the idea of like school shootings, the idea of certain demographics where people, you still want to make it out into a whole nother, community and so forth. Let's say you do get the money. Let's say you do make it big and so forth. But you still can't ignore the fact of the mental disorder, the emotional discomfort and so forth, the climate that's in the air of people truly trying to find a peace of mind or truly trying to find a holistic way of being or try to find some type of stability and balance within their life. So where do they go to? Who do they go to? Where is it? Because the outdated world has a lot to do with the outdated teachers, the outdated energy of people who are coming along and dressing up the same lies and manipulation and so forth. I got people coming to mind, but I ain't even finna say no names because I'm gonna continue to let them keep cooning. I'm gonna continue to you let people assume that they can destiny swap or even be so much of you, but they cannot duplicate the original energy or blueprint that you were given. They'll eventually fade. The divine one, what my grandma used to say or the elder used to say, God watches over fools and children. And that's so funny. Like it's a funny part about it. Like I will allow people to fool themselves and believing that like I used to care about like so many things to where I'm like, yo, hold on, pause. I can only be me better than anybody else. I will let people fool themselves in that you ever had people come around you and they want to be you so much and you start to catch up on it. And you're like, hold on. Or why are you just around me? But even you start to become even more aware on a deeper level that They could never. But again, you're coming from a world where things trend and everybody wants to wear the same this and do the same this, and there's no originality. I can say from generations ago, like when you look at 70s and 80s and certain groups and so forth, you know, people were original music. That's what's being returned as well. We have to see all that tainted shit. So when I'm looking at the energy play out, I see who's enabling what. I'm recognizing who's going to cycle back around. This 9 years revealing so much of who really has watched, who really had the opportunity to walk in integrity, to reach out, to support, and so forth. Because this 1 year is coming in to for a lot of us is going to highlight the importance of why you should walk in integrity, why you should walk upright, why you should allow the divine to show you what is impure and unrighteous. That ain't about being perfect. That's about keeping your fucking hands clean and your heart clean. That's what this is about. Whole time we think we need to be in something and stay around somebody, man. You don't even know what these folks doing behind closed doors. I don't care what they look like. I don't care what color creed they are. You don't know what folks' thoughts, mindset, and anything. You don't know what they're doing behind closed doors. Know thyself. So the beauty of a lot of this I'm learning is the acceptance of like, man, no one can be you better than you. And as much as people want to pretend that they have, it'll be so clear who's connected to what and who has a connection. It will flow so naturally. That's how you will be able to know who mama children is, the big mama. Those who know, you'll be able to know in these moments who getting their message from big mama. Those who still trying to get their message from the distorted mother and and or father, on an energetic level, you'll be able to see clearly what's what, who really trying to nourish you, who really want to see your kids prosper, not just you, but your children prosper. All this shifting power that's happening right now, nah, don't panic. But you'll be able to sense the energy of those who are panicking. Transmute that shit, alchemize it, love it. We in Scorpio, this is my season right now. I'm love all seasons of my season, but we're in this water season right now. It's very emotionally intense and charged. Cleanse yourself, love on yourself. Again, I was able to at times I felt like I used to feel so defeated from a lot of things because I'm telling myself like, bro, how am I gonna get through this? How am I gonna whole time you could have been in connections with certain things the whole time like folks is like preying on you doing certain things or even just trying to assume that they can one up you. And in reality, all walking a path of integrity and authenticity will immediately remind you that your path is always divinely guided and protected. Keep being you because you're going to show the world things that have never been seen or never been witnessed. And due to the abuse of power before, there are those who come along who shall not abuse that power. You're seeing a highlight of abuse of power that has been cleansed from not just this world, this earth, but communities and the families and so forth. Be grateful for that shit, man. Be grateful that the divine removed your ass from something. Cause you some of y'all have insight through dreams. You'll have insight through like you don't even look for the messages. That's one thing I don't even be looking for. I hear through the man, such and such. Cool. You don't gotta look for it. But that'll remind you how much like one thing I will highlight is gratitude. Gratitude, standing gratitude for what is revealed and flowing with life, staying balanced, staying grounded. It's not always easy, but it becomes easier. And what else? Again, changing the narrative comes with a lot of confidence, comes with a lot of courage. Being able to rewrite the narrative of who your mom and dad would, even through their unhealed versions of themselves, project onto you who you're supposed to be, um, the world and so forth, having the courage to step into your power, even through adversity, even when odds are stacked up against you and so forth. What else? Being able to see the corruption and authority, because sometimes the divine is going to place you in a place of authority just so you don't do what's been done to others. a lot of things, again, you are being able to see clearly and bring awareness simply because you are here to do it differently, uniquely, authentically, and with integrity, not through fear, through fearlessness. So, um, what else? Yeah, I'm telling you, it's become clear who and what, um, when it comes to more and more of things becoming more clear. And it's going to become more clear because one thing I learned about Scorpio season is transformation. Secrets comes out because it's the shadow, and learning to be more the observer, not the absorber. I mean, observer. Yeah, yeah, I said it correctly, not the absorber. So love on yourself, continue to be who you are, and have fun through this shit, bro. Life ain't bro, like y'all hear me talk about stuff, but bro, outside of that, I be laughing like a mother. I have to, because you gotta let your inner child express. You gotta let your essence continue to show up and be who you are. And through all of that, man, listen, go do something fun for yourself. Go love on yourself. Go connect. Protect yourself. Because Scorpio season had a lot to do with protection. And protection could be going to do something outside of the crowd, going to balance yourself by being more with yourself and so forth. And I can go on and on. I just want to share those things, but again, I had to recognize how much I couldn't lean towards physical protection, but in any opposition, I start to become clear and clear, more and more aware and discerning. Like, oh, this is supposed to come up, so I can see so I can see who's not supposed to come with me. Oh, this is supposed to happen because I gotta confidently walk into what it is I'm doing because this person is not ready. They're not ready to evolve. They're not ready to do certain things, and with that, that means your experience becomes more enjoyable. It becomes more balanced and harmonious. So y'all keep loving on yourself. Take care of yourself. Peace and blessings. Shalom.